Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into something really interesting today. It's all about Kenya,
Okay.
famous for incredible runners.
Yes.
But they've had some setbacks recently on the world stage. And get this, they're turning to sports science to try and regain their dominance.
Interesting.
So we've got this article that lays out the government's plan,
Okay.
and we're going to see what they're hoping to achieve and how they're going to do it. And
I mean, it's kind of surprising in a way, right? Because you think about Kenya, you think about like Eliud Kipchoge,
oh, absolutely.
the guy who broke the 2-hour marathon barrier. Like
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, the official world record holder too, right?
Exactly.
Isn't it?
And even he, didn't finish the marathon at the Paris Olympics.
Yeah, what happened there?
Right. And the national rugby sevens team, the Shuja, they've been struggling too.
So, if they've got all this natural talent, why are they turning to sports science now?
Well, it seems like they're realizing that in today's world, talent alone just isn't enough.
Hmm.
Other countries have been investing heavily in sports science for years now,
Right.
and Kenya is kind of playing catch up.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't elite athletes,
Right.
what does sports science actually involve? What does it look like?
It's uh it's really multidisciplinary. It's
Hmm.
like it covers so many different areas. It's not just one thing.
Give me an example.
Okay, so like take physiology, for example. It's
Okay.
like analyzing, things like VO2 max, lactate threshold.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Right. And by understanding all that stuff, training can be tailored to each athlete to really improve their performance.
So it's not just about training harder.
Right.
It's about training smarter.
Exactly. Exactly.
I like that.
Then you've got nutrition, which is crafting these individual diets.
Okay.
This isn't just your typical, eat your veggies advice. This is like really precise stuff.
Oh, wow.
Figuring out the exact balance of, carbs, proteins, fats that they need.
It's very personal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not one size fits all at all.
There's a lot more to sports science than I realized.
Oh, yeah. And we haven't even touched on the mental game yet.
Okay.
Like sports psychology, that's huge.
Right.
Helping athletes cope with pressure, developing that mental toughness.
Yeah, that's got to be important.
Things like visualization, mindfulness, all that stuff.
So it's as much about mental training as physical conditioning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And then there's the data side of things,
Right.
performance analysis they use, like GPS tracking,
Right.
video analysis.
Wow.
All that data helps them pinpoint strengths, weaknesses, make tiny adjustments that can lead to big gains.
It's like having a whole team of scientists helping you unlock your full potential.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Now, this article mentioned Kenyan universities are going to be like key players in this whole initiative.
Right.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so Kenya actually already has a good number of trained sports scientists.
Oh, really?
Many of them are at universities.
Interesting.
But their expertise hasn't been fully utilized.
Why not?
I think, it's a good question. The idea now is to create these partnerships between the universities and the sports organizations.
I see.
So athletes can, access the knowledge and the resources that they need.
Okay, so what could be some of the challenges with this? I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but...
Yeah, I mean, there could be some resistance.
Oh, how so?
People who are used to doing things the old way.
Right.
There's a quote in the article from Dr. Francis Mwangi, a lecturer at Kenyatta University.
Okay.
And he basically says that some of the more established figures in the sports world might be a little hesitant to embrace all this new stuff.
Yeah, understandable.
Right. Like they're attached to the traditional methods.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah. But sometimes change could be a good thing.
It's true, especially in something as dynamic as sports.
And if you look at the bigger picture, it seems like Kenya is trying to build a system that will last, not just rely on random bursts of brilliance.
I like that.
They want to build something sustainable.
Makes sense.
There's this other interesting thing in the article.
Okay.
It talks about how international athletes are already coming to Kenya to train.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, especially drawn to the high altitude regions.
Oh, right, because of the thinner air.
Exactly.
Makes them work harder.
There's a quote from Coach Michael Otieno in the article.
Okay.
He points out that a lot of these international athletes, they specifically want to train with the Kenyan marathon runners
Wow.
in those high altitude areas.
They recognize the benefits.
It makes you wonder what could be achieved if they applied the same scientific principles to develop their own athletes even further.
So in a way, Kenya has been kind of like a a sports science hub already.
Yeah, without even realizing it.
They've had this secret weapon.
Right. And now they're ready to, like, fully unleash it.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit more about the high altitude training?
Sure. So basically, when you train at high altitudes, your body has to adapt to the lower oxygen levels.
Right.
Your body starts producing more red blood cells,
Okay.
and that enhances your ability to transport
So
oxygen.
your muscles and everything.
Exactly. And that means better endurance.
Which is like essential for long distance running.
Exactly.
It makes sense why they would go there then.
Yeah.
So even though Kenya is just now formally embracing sports science,
Mm-hmm.
they've already been a destination for
Yeah.
people who are looking for that edge.
It's a perfect example of, like, how you can apply scientific principles to athletic training.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see how a country like Kenya, known for that natural talent, is turning to science to take things even further.
It is. And this is really just the beginning of our deep dive.
Okay.
In the next part, we're going to delve into the specifics of how they're going to actually implement this whole sports science revolution.
Oh, I can't wait.
From education to infrastructure, we're going to cover it all.
This is getting exciting.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to learning more about how this could impact, not just the athletes, but the whole country.
Yeah, it's to be interesting.
Stay tuned for part 2, everyone.
We'll be right back.
We're back for part 2 of our deep dive into how Kenya's incorporating sports science into their athletic programs.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into the details of, like, how they're going to make all of this happen.
Me too.
It seems like you're taking a pretty multifaceted approach
Okay.
with a real focus on collaboration. And what I found interesting is they're starting from the ground up.
What do you mean by that? Like, what does that look like?
Well, it seems like instead of just, throwing money at fancy equipment and labs,
That's right.
they're really focused on developing a system
Okay.
that promotes knowledge sharing, talent development, and, like, a culture that really values sports science.
So it's almost like a mindset shift as much as
Totally.
like a technical thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, remember Dr. Mwangi?
Yeah.
He talked about the potential resistance from those established figures.
Right, the old guard.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got to overcome that.
They do, but the government seems committed to integrating sports science at every level.
Okay.
And it seems like they want to start with education.
Which makes sense to me.
Right. If they want to build something sustainable.
You got to start young.
Yeah, exactly.
Get them while they're young.
And they're planning to leverage this thing called the competency-based curriculum.
CBC.
Yeah, the CBC, exactly.
Can you remind me what that is again?
It's a curriculum that emphasizes practical skills and hands-on learning.
Right.
So they want to, like, weave sports science principles right into that.
Oh, wow. So kids could be learning about nutrition and physiology, like, from a really young age.
Yeah, even injury prevention.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's really impressive.
Yeah, if you can prevent injuries, that's huge.
Exactly.
And they could identify talent early on.
Exactly. And it could lead to a better understanding of, like, sports and fitness in general for young people.
That's a good point.
And think about it. It could create a pipeline
Yeah.
of future sports scientists, coaches, trainers.
All equipped with, like, the latest knowledge.
Exactly. It's like they're planting the seeds for the future.
They're playing the long game here.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got the education piece.
Right.
What about the athletes that are already out there competing?
That's a great question.
Like, how is this going to support them?
So remember how the article talked about the universities,
Yeah, as hubs.
right, being those hubs?
Yeah.
So the government wants to partner those universities with sports organizations.
Okay.
So athletes can get access to all those resources and that expertise.
So, like, physiological testing, performance analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
Personalized training plans.
Exactly. The stuff that athletes in other countries have been using for years.
Right, and it goes beyond just the physical, right? We talk about the psychology as well.
Oh, absolutely. So they could have access to sports psychologists.
Right.
Who can help them with mental toughness, coping strategies, visualization techniques.
Yeah, because that's important too.
Oh, it's huge, especially when you're performing under pressure.
It's a whole other level.
Yeah.
So we've got the education piece, the university partnerships. There's got to be more to it.
There is.
Like funding, infrastructure, all that.
Yeah, those are key pieces of the puzzle.
Those are always the big ones.
Right. The article didn't get into specifics about funding,
Okay.
but they did mention needing a regulatory framework
Oh, interesting.
for sports science practitioners.
So making sure it's all legitimate?
Yeah, like professionalizing the field.
Oh, okay. And that could attract more investment.
Exactly, and it makes sense.
And it'll ensure like high standards.
Exactly. They're aiming for a world-class system.
You got to have qualified people
Yeah, for sure.
and resources to back them up.
And it's not just about labs and equipment.
Right.
They've got to create this whole network
Oh, okay.
of facilities and support systems.
That can reach people all over the country.
Exactly, even in those more remote areas.
That's a big undertaking.
Yeah, things like mobile testing units, regional training centers.
Even online resources.
Yeah, that's important. To bridge that gap between like urban and rural areas.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's ambitious, but it's also exciting to think about.
Oh, for sure.
What's really interesting to me is we've talked about the benefits for athletes.
Right.
But how could all this benefit Kenya as a whole?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's bigger than just sports.
Exactly. It's about the impact sports can have on the entire nation.
Right, like national pride,
Okay, sure.
economic development,
Mhm.
even like healthier lifestyles in general.
Absolutely. It's about driving progress.
Yeah,
Using sports to create positive change.
I like that.
Imagine a Kenya where sports science is just part of everyday life.
Yeah.
It could lead to better public health, a more active population.
It could inspire innovation in other fields too.
Totally.
It's really cool to think about.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this vision of like a sports science-powered Kenya, young athletes learning about it early on,
Right.
universities producing these qualified experts, support systems all over the country.
But let's be realistic.
Yeah.
It's going to be challenging to implement all of this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, funding's a big one.
Yeah, always.
And then you got to change those mindsets.
Right. It's not going to happen overnight.
It's a process.
And the logistics of it all,
Yeah.
building the infrastructure, training the personnel, ensuring quality control.
It's a long-term commitment.
It is. That's where the real test lies.
Yeah.
Having the vision, the determination, and the patience to see this through.
Yeah. Because there's no guarantee it's going to work.
No, but even if it doesn't immediately put Kenya back on top,
Right.
the knowledge gained,
Yeah.
the systems built, and the potential cultural shift, that'll have a lasting impact.
That's a good point.
It's about investing in the future,
Yeah.
not just chasing immediate results.
Yeah. Long-term vision.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this part.
We have.
We've talked about Kenya's legacy, all the ins and outs of sports science, this new initiative.
Yeah.
Anything else we should be paying attention to?
You know, one area that I think deserves a closer look is the ethical side of all this.
Oh, right.
You know, as we dive deeper into performance enhancement,
Yeah.
we got to be careful not to cross the line.
Yeah, you don't want to compromise the health of the athletes.
Exactly. Winning at all costs is not the goal.
That's a really important point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, we can't let the excitement overshadow the ethics.
That's where we'll pick up in part 3.
Sounds good.
So as we head into that final part, how can we ensure this sports science revolution in Kenya and globally really is done ethically and responsibly?
That's the big question.
That's what we'll explore.
We'll be right back.
Okay, we're back for the final part of our deep dive on Kenya and this whole sports science thing.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, I mean, who knew there was so much to it?
Right. From natural talent to like really getting into the science of it all.
And we ended on this question of ethics, you know?
Yeah, that's the big one.
It's a really important part of the conversation.
Absolutely, because sports science has all these amazing tools.
Yeah, it can really enhance performance.
But we got to be careful.
Right.
Where do we draw the line?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
We don't want athletes' health to be compromised just to win.
That's not what it's about.
Exactly.
So what are some of those ethical concerns? What should we be thinking about?
Well, one of the biggest ones is just the pressure on athletes.
Yeah, to win.
To win, yeah.
It's intense.
And it can push them too far.
They might feel like they have to go beyond their limits.
Right, and sports science can give us all this data
Yeah.
about their capabilities.
But those are just guidelines, right?
Exactly, not like rules that have to be followed no matter what.
You can't just push someone beyond their limits because the data says they can handle it.
Right, there's always a risk of overtraining,
Yeah, injuries.
burnout, long-term health problems.
Right.
The priority has to be the athlete's well-being.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, isn't it?
It is, that drive to win, but also the responsibility to protect.
And it's not just the physical health, right?
Oh, absolutely.
There's the mental and emotional side, too.
Yeah, performing at that level, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
and some of the sports science techniques.
Like the constant analysis and everything.
Exactly. That can actually add to the pressure
Oh.
if it's not done carefully.
Yeah, if you're constantly being watched and measured.
Yeah, it's like, am I good enough?
Compared to others.
Yeah, it can be really tough.
So it's important to have those sports psychologists involved.
Oh, absolutely.
To help athletes develop coping skills.
Yeah. Manage those expectations.
Create a support system.
Exactly. It's not just about winning. It's about the whole person.
Now this brings up another question. Access and equity.
Oh, that's a good one.
Will all Kenyan athletes have access to all of this?
Right, because it can't just be for the elite.
Yeah, will it trickle down to everyone?
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
If this is going to really transform Kenyan athletics.
It's got to be inclusive.
Exactly. It's got to benefit athletes at all levels.
Yeah, not just the Olympians.
Right. Imagine if this knowledge was in the schools, in the communities.
Grassroots initiatives.
Yeah, it could impact the whole population.
Make everyone healthier.
Yeah, that's where that plan to put sports science in the education system is so key.
Yeah, it sets the foundation.
It's about giving everyone that opportunity to benefit.
No matter what their goals are.
Exactly.
Now, something else I find interesting.
Yeah.
Technology and performance-enhancing substances.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the line?
That's the million-dollar question.
When is something a legitimate innovation?
Right.
And when is it an unfair advantage?
The debate we've been having for years.
It's getting harder and harder to tell.
And as technology keeps advancing, that line is going to keep getting blurrier.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think what's important is transparency.
Oh, okay.
And regulation.
So clear rules about what's allowed and what's not.
Yes. And a system to make sure everyone follows the rules.
That makes sense.
And those rules have to adapt as technology changes.
It's like a constant game of catch-up.
It is, but in the end, the goal should be a level playing field.
Yeah, where everyone has a fair chance.
Success should come from hard work, dedication, talent.
Not shortcuts.
Right, not trying to cheat the system.
And that brings us back to what we've been talking about.
Yeah,
Sports science can unlock so much potential,
it can.
but we have to use it ethically.
Absolutely. That's our responsibility.
It's a delicate balance.
It is. But I think what Kenya is doing is really promising.
Yeah.
They're focusing on collaboration, education, the well-being of the athlete.
It's not just about winning.
Exactly.
They're building something that will hopefully benefit everyone.
Yeah, it's a really interesting example
It's a great example
of how a nation can use science to improve, not just in sports, but in society as a whole.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
I agree.
We've covered so much.
We've gone from Kenya's running history to the complexities of sports science.
To the ethical dilemmas.
And this is why I love these deep dives.
Me too.
We don't just scratch the surface.
You get into the details.
We explore the why behind the what.
And the potential consequences.
Exactly.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive.
We hope it's given you a lot to think about.
The future of sports is being shaped by science.
It is.
And it's up to all of us to make sure it's a future where ethics, equity, and the well-being of athletes are front and center.
That's what matters most.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.